We about to be live. I think we live. We are live. Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the May 13th. Did I say 13th? 13th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Listen, it's one of them days, man. It is one of them days where everything that can go wrong, how I go, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And so that's what's taking place right now. Just me trying to figure out how to navigate this new laptop. If you were tuned in yesterday, I had a little bit of audio issues, and I appreciate you if you let me know if my audio issues are still taking place, because again, that will be love, and sharing is caring. Again, shout out to the people who are watching on Facebook Live. Shout out to the people who at some point will be watching on YouTube Live. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because it's love. And if you don't hit it, I'm gonna think that you don't really fools with me like that. And we know that's not necessarily the truth, unless it is, and then we can have a conversation off air. So in this episode, I wanted to be intentional about how I approached it. So this is a Wellness Wednesday, and once I start getting back into the swing of things with the various themes of the days, I wanted to be really intentional with this Wellness Wednesday. As y'all know, this Michael Jordan doc has been really giving me fits. It's been giving me fits because not only am I watching the documentary The Last Dance, but I'm also reading the book The Jordan Rules. Like, I just found out today that him punching Steve Kerr in the face was not the first time he punched a teammate in the face. He punched Will Purdue, and it makes sense because Will Purdue is 7 foot and spaghetti soft as tissue paper, right? But he punched Will Purdue in the face because he set a screen too hard in practice. And that's why they put curtains in the practice so nobody from the outside could really see what was taking place in there. So again, man, I'm starting to learn a lot about this boy MJ, and it's giving me some insight not only into the mind of a great player like MJ, but it has me asking questions about the mental health of athletes. You know that I'm a huge advocate of mental health. I've gone to various D1 universities and had conversations with athletes about the importance of mental health, because we know their level of anxiety, level of depression is right on par with the national average, unless we're talking about women track athletes.
Was this happening?
Now we know that they're twice as likely to experience anxiety and depression, and we've seen various suicides take place at schools like UPenn or what have you.
At the bottom.
And so, with me being intentional and continue this theme, I wanted to bring on another athlete who can have a conversation about mental health. And I don't know how I stumbled upon him. I think somebody might have added him on my post, or vice versa. But me seeing his daily post about mental health and seeing that he's a former pro basketball player, it just made sense for me to ask him to come on. So I like to introduce none other than Mr. Nafis Ricks. Peace, brother. How you feeling?
I'm great. I'm great. Happy to be on.
No doubt, no doubt. So we're gonna get right into it, man. So because we're gonna get to who you are, your background. You've watched The Last Dance. You being a basketball player, is that an accurate depiction of what it's like being in the athletic environment?
I think it's the competitive nature. I understand on both sides of what Mike was trying to do, and I think it's a right way, and I think it's a wrong way. But it took me some time to understand it. Coming from the inner city, you used to dudes cursing at you to get the best out of you. But and sometimes it might get physical. I think we use that as a sign of we saying that's tough if you fight somebody and then you battle it out. So what Mike was doing, like I said, as I got older, I don't really agree with that, because if you're gonna do it to everybody. Be like, if you're gonna do it, be like that 100 all the way around the board.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about it. But it's a norm. I'm gonna say that it's a norm. Like sometimes it can get physical in practices. I have seen it. I have witnessed it. I have had one. I have a couple altercations myself.
So when you say you've had altercations yourself, what type of like knuckling or?
Yeah, we threw a couple blows before. I had in practice before, but it was more of a competitive standpoint where you wasn't going hard, I wasn't going hard, and we was going at each other, and it got to the point where he had to get some off his chest. I had to get some off my chest, and then after that, we shook hands, and we didn't. It didn't take it to the point where it was like a bullying session.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what frustrates me most about Mike, and just reading the book in the last and watching The Last Dance. It's just he comes across as a bully. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. It doesn't appear that he's trying to get the best out of him. It's
Mm-hmm.
just more so let me get these harsh jokes off. Like he calls Stacey King a hoe. Like oh no, it was Scott Burrell. He called Scott Burrell a hoe
Right,
like 10 times, and you just see him just take it. Right.
right,
And I'm sure it was ribbing back and forth. But my thing is, at what point does it go from being just that ribbing and that traditional quote unquote masculine behavior to really being bullying? Because as I always say, you don't want your kids to act like that in the
right,
sports arena.
right.
Right. So just what are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of it plays a part on how you were raised and what you see, because a lot of times, I mean, I had two brothers, so it was like we was kind of taught to be tough, and if you one fight, the next one got to fight, like whether you was in it or not. It's like you were part of the family. So I think with that, I don't know if he had great examples in front of him to not do that. I mean, Mike was a different breed, and I think he was almost obsessed with the game of basketball. Like he was willing to almost die for the sport. And when you see those things in this documentary, it kind of sets you back. Like, wow, like the organization allowed this, and you this is your star player, but do you want to rub him the wrong way, or you gonna let him do what you do in order to win championships and gain all this revenue? So I think it goes hand in hand as far as with Mike, what he was doing, because nobody never stopped him.
Yeah.
Phil did a little bit of thing, kick him out of practice, but he didn't stop what was going on, and that was a long time Mike was in the league. What, 13, 14 years?
Yeah. Word. Word. So you said, if you grow up in the hood, you know what I mean, you might be accustomed to that. Listen, I wasn't the greatest basketball player. I used to get first runs, you know what I mean, where I played at, so I I'll wear that hat, probably because I just hustled a whole lot. And I knew that was the only way I was going to be able to play for real, for real.
Mhm.
But it was a physical type of space to be in, a physical environment. Like you
Right.
got yelled at, you got cursed at. Like, I remember Bull Hot Rod, he used to yell at constantly, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, come on, you get a nickname that you don't necessarily want.
Right.
Right. So I know I done went to the hospital, got stitches over my eye just because somebody wanted to throw a Bill Cartwright elbow.
Right.
But no,
Right.
I definitely get it. So when you talk about just environments of born and raised, where were you born and raised at?
I was born and raised in the West Philadelphia, so I mean, being in the inner city, this is like playing sports, and especially basketball. It's like kind of like you in survival mode. Like you
Mm,
either gonna go to the street and hustle, or you gonna use basketball as the catapult you to the next level. And your aspirations normally is going to the NBA.
yeah.
You like it's like whatever I got to do to get the scholarship, that's what I'm willing to do. So if you're in the way, that's when the anger comes out, or you seeing death around your community, or you seeing toxic behavior in your community, but it's like normalized. I think that's where a lot of it stems from. So I think a lot of times you don't have nobody to release, and I think sports is a release mechanism for a lot of guys to
Yeah.
show their anger on the basketball court or in sports to get
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah, it's funny. I say Hot Rod. I see he just liked your post too. You know what I mean? Of you sharing it. Shout out to him, man. One of the best basketball players I've seen in my life, for real, for real.
Facts.
Um, and so when we talk about just getting that aggression out, we typically tell boys in particular to, you want to get that steam off, that anger, that aggression, to go and play basketball, go play football, and try to do it in healthier ways,
Right.
right? And so
Right.
was that really your experience?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I didn't know a healthy way. I didn't have coaches to really do it in a healthy way. And like what I mean by that is, growing up in Philadelphia, I was normally accustomed to coaches cursing me out to get the best out of me. I thought that was what it was. And like I thought my homies, like, they saying all types of things to get me going. It's like I can't be soft out here. I gotta portray myself as tough. I gotta do whatever it takes to get the win or play my butt off. But when I got to college, my coach pushed me in a way where he didn't curse. He never cursed, but he still got the best out of me. So that's when I start seeing, like, I didn't need to be cursed at to get the best out of me.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, when I got to college, and when that happened to me, I was kind of feeling weird about it because I said I never had a man get the best out of me without cursing. So I was just like, this is uncomfortable. Like this is a right way to do it. Like I felt really like this is weird. Somebody really not cursing at me, but he making me run these lines and I'm doing it, and it's having the same type of effect from when somebody was cursing me out. I was just like, wow, I didn't know this I didn't know this what it was. I didn't know this was a thing of healthy motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. Like, I notice a lot of brothers start to have that experience once they get older, right?
Mm-hmm.
They realize you can have a healthy, productive conversation with brothers and that be it,
Right,
right? And it doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be that you can sit and actually have conversations, especially with older black men. I know me now, I'm still uncomfortable with engaging with older black men
right,
just because that hasn't necessarily been my experience.
right.
Whether it was in, we talk about I made a post about when was your first black male teacher? And for me, it was Mr. Dobson in eighth grade. Shout out to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would be college, my professor. And those would
Mm-hmm.
be the only two that I would have in my academic existence. And so we talk about I have 3 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I haven't had a black male teacher except in elementary school and
Right.
at bachelor levels. And so it was uncomfortable when these brothers wanted to have conversations with me because it's just like, what we going to talk about? Right?
Right,
We're not talking about sports.
right,
Like
right,
you want to talk about how I am, how I'm feeling. Like
right.
that's different. And I noticed that in my work with black and brown boys, that it's a discomfort that exists
Mm-hmm.
um, amongst them. It's almost like you have to yell at them so they can feel comfortable. That's like the toxic relationship that we might often find ourselves in. Before my partner now, I thought I had to be in relationships where I'm getting yelled at because they ain't
Mm-hmm.
love me,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And so I think we've had that similar experience. And so you
Mhm.
talk about just transitioning to college. So what college did you go to? I know you made a couple stops, right?
Yeah. I went to junior college out in Kansas called Johnson County Community College. And then I transferred to Missouri State University.
Where so how was those experiences? Because you're talking about coming from Philly to go to go to Kansas.
Man, so it was funny. The previous year before that, I went to prep school out in Maine, so that was a culture shock. Like it was just like cold, and so I was just like, well, one of my friends that played basketball, he was older than me, and he went to the same junior college. And at the time, I was kind of in limbo because I left that semester the previous year from prep school because I had a bad experience with the coach. Me and him didn't really get along. And then I was sitting. I started working at UPS, so I was just kind of like, I'm a hooper. Like I just led the public league in scoring my senior year. And I'm like, I'm not hooping. Like, what is going on? So when I got to Kansas, it was just more like, what can happen? Like, it's my last chance. They're gonna pay for my schooling, and I'm like, I'm gonna just take a chance. If I could play with my friend who was already at Indiana State he went to Indiana State from me. I'm like, if me and him on the same level right now, I'm still in high school or getting ready for college. I think I could play at that level. So I just took a leap of faith, and I heard about the Kansas junior colleges and their experiences and where people went after their experience, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me being there because it had showed me on how to kind of transition of I don't have to be so hard. I didn't have to bring that Philly mentality like me all the time. So I really got to understand who I was, and I had a group of teammates that was from all different areas, and I brought a couple Philly guys with me, so it made it even more comfortable than
Yeah.
being out there.
Yeah. So how was that transition? I know you made it. It appears to be a seamless transition for you once you know what I mean took that let your hair down. I know we both out here. I mean, for those saying like, yo, you had a hat on back to back days. Just a real quick story. I cut my locks off about 2 weeks ago. Shaved my head with bald. I'm like, I'm gonna do something new. My man Brian was like, yo, you might as well do it. So I did it. And
Right.
now it's growing back, and that line not like it once it was, man. And so I'm hurting. So I see you over there with the baldy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a transition. But when we talk about transitions, like how was it emotionally?
It was
Right?
tough.
Just
It
that
was
emotional transition.
it was tough because I never lived in dorms. Like my junior college, we didn't have dorms connected to the college, so it was basically like it was built like a university. So it was like 20,000 kids, but it's commuters. So when I got there, I had to pay bills. So mind you, it wasn't a part of the school where I had to use my financial aid check to send money home and pay my bills. So I didn't really get to keep none, and the rest that I had was just getting back and forth to school. So it was an adjustment because it was a PWI, and for people who don't know what that is, a predominantly white institution. So mind you, I'm in classes where I might be the only black student in the class, and I'm in a new environment, and I'm just like, I'm in college. I'm like, man, I'm away from home, and I'm in a predominantly white institution where if I say my opinion, is it gonna matter, or I'm gonna rub people the wrong way? That's how I was feeling. It's like, wow, if I didn't play sports, would I have been here? Would I chose this school? So mentally, I was kind of like in limbo for a little minute, and I had to adjust from there. But it was tough my first year. I'm gonna definitely say it was tough, but with sports helped me. It was my outlet.
Yeah, yeah. So was it more of a, because I know with a lot of black men we experience this, like it's imposter syndrome. Like, am I worthy enough to be in this space that I now occupy? Was some of that taking place?
Yeah, definitely, because it's just like I didn't want people to see me just for my talent on the basketball court. I had an opinion. I was a smart guy. Like I wanted to show who I was as a person, and I didn't want sports to overshadow that. Like, okay, you in school, but I'm just not here for sports. If this thing don't work out for me, education got to fall in line. So you always question yourself when you don't see people that look like you, and then when you do see people look like you, they playing sports. It's like, no, it's educated black young men and women out here as well, but they're not in this space. They were at the time. They weren't in that institution where I was at. So it was kind of like an anomaly. Unless it was a black student, they were playing sports.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that pressure that's there, man. Like it's like we already got to be twice as great, and then
Right.
when you're coming there for a particular reason, right?
Right.
Like you have to be three times as great. Like I remember, and I'm sure you watched it, Hoop Dreams,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you think about Hoop Dreams, you think about William Gates. Where'd he go? He went to Marquette,
Mm-hmm.
and he had difficulties transitioning, and it was
Right.
just like, yo, I got all this pressure, I got the hood on my back, right? I
Mm-hmm.
got this girlfriend, this baby, I got all of these pressures, and we don't take that into consideration when we're thinking about athlete students, because we know you're not student athletes for all they're athlete students,
Right.
and so
Right.
just those difficulties, and that's why I'm an advocate of some type of monetary compensation, right? That's commiserate to the type of program that you're at, the sport that you're playing, because it just doesn't make sense that it's the modern day slavery. I know people hate slavery comparisons, but when
Mm-hmm.
you see what they're taking in, and they're taking in billions and billions of dollars, and
Mm-hmm.
you see, I'm not going to downplay what a scholarship means, because I'm paying back bread as we speak.
Right. Right.
However, it's just like, is that enough?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Is
Right.
that enough? So yeah, so the pressures are heavy. So you've transitioned. So once you finish playing college ball, you transition to overseas.
Yeah, I played. The first year it was the NBA lockout, so I didn't. I turned down a deal, and I was nervous because it was in Czechoslovakia. So being from Philly, I'm like, nobody was guiding me in the process of what overseas basketball was like. I'm like, I'm going to be in a new country, and at the time, I had a newborn, so I'm just like, I'm kind of nervous. So I'm just like, do I take it? Or I just stay home, or I wait for another deal, or a country that I'm comfortable with, like Germany? I heard a lot of good things about it, so I actually turned it down. So I didn't get a job my first year, so I
Okay.
had to work, and I had my newborn baby and everything like that. So it was kind of like, once again, I felt like I'm back at it again. Like I'm back home. I'm working. I know I still can play. I know I can still play at a high level. So just seeing that transition of working in a school, that's when I started working in school and just giving back. And I was just like, that's what we're playing basketball right now. I'm not done with playing. And it was a hard adjustment for me because I'm sitting at a desk. I'm like, I never really had to sit at a desk unless I was doing school. And then
Yeah.
I could change it into my uniform. So it was an adjustment on that in that standpoint. But it taught me a lot that there was a lot of kids that were just like me who didn't get the exposure, or they was looking for the guidance to get to where I was trying to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So where was your first stop?
My first stop was in Finland, Uvascular, Finland.
Okay.
So it was negative. I was in negative 40-degree weather out there, and it was a humbling experience because one time over there I faked sick for a week, so I wouldn't go outside. I was just like, man, this is depressing, and they only have 3 hours of sunlight in the winter. It's only 3 hours of sunlight, so I'm like, they gave me a bike. They didn't give me a car. They gave me a bike to ride to practice. So I'm like, man, I really don't want to go. I really don't want to go. I don't really don't want to play this week. So I'm just gonna fake sick. So I fake sick, uh, and they brought me food every day, and I was like, yeah, I just don't feel. I didn't feel good and everything, and it worked. And it was just like, it's so much downtown and overseas. It's like you try to find things to do. Social media wasn't big then.
Yeah.
In 2012, it was like, or 2013, it wasn't big. So it was more like Netflix and you FaceTiming most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was tough.
So how many places did you play at overseas?
I played Finland, Brazil, Amsterdam, and Belgium.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And all those experiences were like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they were culture shocks because you like going to different places. You know what I mean?
So my first year was Finland. It was -40, but the next year was Brazil. So I was like total opposite. I love Brazil, just the people, the food, and they have a lot of stuff that they deal with as far as discrimination and racial. It's real. It's like, and then getting to see poverty. I know I was playing for a bigger purpose when I went down there. So it was a humbling experience, I could say the least, down there.
Okay. And so at the end of your pro basketball career, was it what I'm going to do next type of moment, or you already had it set in your mind that you was going to go to grad school?
No, actually, when I transitioned from playing basketball, I left on my own. I didn't have no more in, because at the time people don't realize when you overseas and you making money or whatever, you're getting cash money basically. So you don't have a house. Some countries are better than others, and then you spending money overseas and you're trying to find things to do. So you got to think you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but you don't own a place, you don't have a car most of the time because you're fresh out of college, and I got a brand new baby, so I got to go back to my mom's house.
Yeah.
So now, like, you don't own anything, you don't have anything, and I sat back and I said, what makes sense? I have a newborn baby. I need a place to stay. I can't come back every year. I can't rent an apartment because I'm not going to be here. I'm only going to be here for 3 months in the summer. So when I finally said I'm done playing basketball, it was more like a relief. Like, okay, like I'm good. Like I got it all out, and it's like, let me get into coaching. I got to ask the opportunity to coach at a high school MOTEP charter. I got asked. So that was like me. It was like second nature. It's like, all right, I'm coaching. I can still practice with these guys, and I felt good about it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, and just summing up your basketball journey, you ended up at Missouri.
Yeah. So I went to I coached at MOTEP for 3 years. 3 years, and then after that, I got an opportunity to go back with my coach at University of Missouri. So my coach, who's my coach in college at Missouri State, he's the head coach here at Missouri. So he brought me back on as a graduate assistant.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, and you were there for 2 years, and the graduate assistantship is up, and so now what are you doing as far as just your journey?
So now people don't realize, and you probably gonna get the first to scoop. So now I'm entering a space where I'm going to become a counseling psychologist and continue my education by getting a PhD. So that's going to be my next journey. It won't be in the coaching, but it's more of supporting my brothers that's in coaching and supporting players and families that's struggling mentally on how to navigate through these spaces where you might feel uncomfortable or you don't have the information to give you some real information about the game of basketball.
Yeah. So how did you? Because that's not the typical path, right? When we talk about in the stereotypical path, when we talk about athletes, when we talk about Black athletes, a lot of times we see the difficult transition because ball being your life, it's been your entire life, and you don't know who you are outside of basketball. So you'll try to find, you might try to get a radio job, you might try to get in broadcasting somehow, but you're doing like a complete 180 going from and against the norm, going from athletics to now psychology. So what made you focus in on that?
The biggest, to be honest, I had a mental breakdown when I was in college or when I was at Missouri State, and I told my coach. And the biggest thing for me was more like I had so much trauma when I was growing up, and I didn't realize it was trauma. I thought I was normalizing, and it was to the point where I broke down and cried and I almost quit basketball. I almost just stopped. And when he got me a psychologist, and I got to talk to a neutral party, and it was like no judgment. And when I picked my coach, it was more of representation. But I needed somebody who was from a similar environment that I was in, so I can say, like, if something going on at home, I got to be able to fly home, like, because it's always something going on in Philadelphia. Because, like I said, you probably had the same experience. I'm not sure, but I lost somebody in my life every year of my life since I've been in Philadelphia. Like, that's just like the norm.
Yeah.
And so going through that and seeing that, and I got a psychologist, and I got to unpack. As I got older, I always used to tell people my experience about overseas or my journey. How was it? And I was giving people real information. So as I got to this point, it didn't dawn on me until like in October of this year. I was like, since I'm telling all my story and I like to talk and talk about my experience, and I'm talking to the psychologists on campus, I'm like, man, I could do the same job. I'm getting information from the players, and we having a regular conversation. I'm not even trying to dig it out of them. I've been a player, so I understand where you're coming from. And my coach is the head coach, so I already know the expectation of what he's looking for.
Yeah.
So I said, what would be next? I don't really agree with some of the rules that the NCAA has, but I got to respect it because I'm under the umbrella. But I want to change. I want to change the narrative of what they say about basketball players, but especially black men, and in these spaces, and do something different. I think being a psychologist, it doesn't feel like a job for me. Me giving out information and helping people cope with certain situations and stuff like that. Because I've been on all levels except for the NBA, but I have friends in the NBA and they tell me about their issues going on. I said, why not make this my occupation? And I think it's different and it's unique in its way, and it's not a lot of us in these spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, no, when we talk about representations matters, and we had that conversation with Joanna McClinton, a PA State rep yesterday, that she didn't have a black woman to look up to in politics,
Right.
especially in local politics like that. And so it was just like, I have to be that voice.
Right.
I have to be that person because I can see that I have a unique perspective in this world, and it can benefit those in particular who look like me. And
Right.
so, salute to you for recognizing that and being open and honest about, your experiences with regards to mental health. So when we go back to what you call identify as a breakdown, what was that experience? Was it just, again, I know you talked about the impact of historical trauma that it's had on
Right.
your life, but was it like uh an acute situation that took place that
Man,
triggered it, or
my
was it just
well, I was
just
struggling. I was struggling. So I was the number one JUCO player in the country coming out because we won the national championship my year, MVP or whatever. So when I transitioned into the Division I school, I was never worked like that a day in my life. Like, that workouts was different. Like, it was to the point where I couldn't finish a workout. I was exhausted. I couldn't finish a workout. I was by myself. So every day used to make me get on the treadmill after practice. And my foot was messed up when I first got there. So I was already behind. And I'm thinking my talent gonna carry me over. I'm like, we wasn't good. They wasn't good the year before. So I'm thinking I'm gonna come right in. And then I was making a transition from shoot like a combo guard to a point guard. So that was a transition in itself. So I'm like, man, this dude had a lot of expectation. I didn't know it was gonna be like this. So I started doubting myself if I could play at this level. And I wasn't starting at first. Like, it took me, like, he didn't start me, he didn't promise me anything, but I was willing to work hard. But I was so stressed out because, I'm calling back home like, man, this man ain't starting. Why he go way out there?
yeah,
And my family and stuff. So it's like all that extra pressure. And at the time, I had my ex-girlfriend living out there with me. So she was the only one new. So, you hear people back home, I was probably that girl that's affecting him and stuff. And I'm like, if it wasn't for her, she seen my breakdown. She seen me crying. We had arguments at times, and like I was like going through so much emotionally. It was just like I couldn't take it no more. It was like, man, you know what? I don't even want to play. If I'm gonna get all this and I can't finish and I can't be the person who I was, I don't want to play this game. Like I don't want to do it because I'm never gonna live up to the expectation of everybody else. And to the point where I say, you know what? I gotta talk to somebody because I know something going on and I can't get over it.
yeah, yeah. No, that's brave, man. That takes courage. Uh, I know that I often plug. You know who Larry Sanders is.
Right,
I used to play for the Milwaukee Bucks.
right.
And I always plug his. It's called Larry Sanders POV, and you
Mm-hmm.
can find it on YouTube. I think he did it for the Players Tribune. This was after he, they say he was about to get suspended by the league for smoking weed, but he
Right.
left the NBA to and checked himself into a dual diagnosis facility.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, yo, why'd you turn down, like, leave that 40-50 million dollars on the table? And so in the Larry Sanders POV, he opens up by saying, hi, I'm Larry Sanders. I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm
Mm-hmm.
an artist, I'm a painter, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I play basketball. And I
Right.
thought that was so profound because we often we over identify with the role that everybody knows us for.
Right.
So you a basketball player, me a mental health therapist. It's just like, yo, I'm in the bar. I'm not the mental health therapist. I'm just the boy trying to have a drink.
Right. 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 Right.
But this is what people often identify you as being. And sometimes we take on that role so much that we forget who we are, right?
Right.
We forget that we're so much more than that, and that can impact again how we're showing up in the most difficult the most difficult of spaces.
Right, right. I
So,
agree. I
again,
agree.
salute to you for that. So
Appreciate it.
I know you talked about now, entering the counseling psychology program and wanting to help athletes with mental health. I see and I noticed, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because I see this month of May, like you haven't fallen off with the daily mental health posts, right? Like I know I have at times,
Mm,
because again, the first couple of days, you're like, all right, May is mental health awareness month, and then
yeah.
the next thing is, all right, you might forget about it, but I see you're so diligent. So what is it about this advocacy of mental health that has you continuing to push to enlighten people?
I just see the patterns of certain families and people that I play basketball or play sports with in general. I see little things, and when like this COVID-19 has shown a lot where you can't hide behind a screen, so your only human interaction is through Zoom, FaceTime, or live. So when I hear guys say certain things, it's like kind of like a trigger. I heard that before. I already know what you're feeling. So as of late, I've been having a lot of my friends that I kind of played with or played against been reaching out to me about certain situations they've been through a certain experience that I have, and they asking me questions on how did I remedy some of the stuff or cope with some of the things that I have been through. And I just feel like for me, this keeps me in the space of sports, but not. I'm not working for anybody. I'm working for myself, and in a way where I can give back. And I'm being honest. I'm a neutral party. Like I've been at all the levels, so it's just like me seeing the same patterns over and over again. It's like who's in that space that's going to be able to occupy it is going to give you some real feedback, but somebody that you trust. And I said, I feel like I'm that person. And for me, not doing it the conventional way of the transition of being a coach, I think it's only right where kids see me in this light and say, education is important, not for anybody else, but for yourself. It's all right to be an educated Black man in these spaces where at first it might feel uncomfortable. I can be your mentor when you get in these spaces, whether it's sports or is it an educational sport. I mean, in this educational things. So I'm just trying to be in all different realms where you can be multifaceted in different avenues, and don't let sports define who you are. It's just something that you do, and don't let that label just occupy who you are and your identity, and you lose who you are internally.
Word. Beautifully stated. Beautifully stated. Let me see. We got two comments. Let's see. So Kamal says, "Special kid." They got to be family.
What's up, Mom? That's my old AU coach.
Okay. Let's see. Can you speak more about your first year student experiences, especially for young Black males who may not be prepared mentally, emotionally, and educationally? How can they navigate to get that first year success? We see so often our young men entering and not finishing. It's a
Uh,
good.
well, that's a great question. The biggest thing I want, to be honest, I think if you, especially from Philly, what we all deal with as Black men, and I think all kids should register. Not all kids, because some are prepared, but our schools are not geared to help our athletes navigate in these spaces. Certain schools are not equipped. You might be a good basketball player, but what you see on a day-to-day basis, when you got to go through a school and you got to go through a metal detector, that's not normal. I had to go through a metal detector in high school. They don't do that in college. So first of all, that's rule number one. You are already not prepared because they looking at you like you're a criminal already. When you're in college, you're not in that space. So the first thing I would recommend, to be honest, see what school is about by red shirt. You still get your scholarship paid for. Learn what it takes to be a student athlete, on how much time you have to divide with school, with playing, working out, meal plan. It's so many things, and just getting adjusted to a new environment, because you're gonna have to give up something. You're gonna have to give up something to gain something. And being with new people that you haven't been around, you might be around somebody from North Carolina, somebody from California, and it's competitive at the same time. But the only reason how I made it is because I trusted my coaches when I got there, and I said, if I'm signing this letter of intent, you're not just coaching me on the basketball court. You got to coach me in my life.
Mm.
That's how I took it. So be very, very careful when you're picking these schools, and do your background. I think the first thing families got to be more involved with. Do your background search on these coaches and really asking them hard questions, like, and ask the person on the end of the bench, because he's gonna give you the real. Don't ask the first guy, the second guy,
Yeah,
the
they
third.
spell Jordan.
Yeah, ask the managers, ask the support staff that's around, and say, how does the coach treat their players, and how do they get them adjusted? How do we talk to them on an everyday basis? And that's kind of how I navigated through my first year. I really did my research and investigating the coach. I took a leap of faith, but I really found somebody who cared for me as a person. And the basketball, that was on me.
Yeah, yeah. No, great answer. And I think for when we talk about non-athletes, that idea of mentorship is important, right? It's super important. Even if they don't look like you, just having somebody who you can lean on, whether it's an older student, whether it's a professor, uh,
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's trustworthy and has your best interest at heart. Because again, it's a culture shock. I've gone to 3 PWIs, working on my fourth now. The first one going to Bloomsburg, it was, going from Philadelphia to Western Pennsylvania, which is literally a red state. They all vote for Trump and what have you. First time being called an N word by a non-black person, and first time seeing a Confederate flag like live and in person. And
Right.
that brings about feelings, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a stressor. Then we talk about the stressors of school. Like you said, nobody gonna wake you up. It was times, I'm trying to think of the game that was out. I think 2K for Dreamcast might have been out at that time. And that somebody say check rock, and we was playing video games and not going to class, right?
Right. Right.
It's again, we didn't have that type of internal accountability that's necessary in order to thrive in the first year, and externally we didn't have that um that accountability. I mean, we had some first year experience things, but those were optional, right? It
Mhm.
weren't mandatory. And
Right.
again, it's just going to be a culture shock overall.
Right.
I have so much respect for the older learner who comes into the classroom, right?
Mhm.
I used to laugh at the late 20s, the early 30s. They in there trying to get their bachelor's, but
Right.
I'm like, yo, they understood,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
They didn't take Spanish 1-3 times like I did. I mean, and
Right.
so
Right.
you just don't know. And that's why I think I don't want to necessarily say a gap year, but I think going to like a local community college, especially times like now with COVID,
Right.
government is cheaper. You get to learn how to be an adult for
Right.
even just for a semester. You get to learn how to be an adult for a semester before
Right.
you transition to being on your own, and again, everything that comes with that. So
Right.
yeah, no, that's definitely great information that you passed out right there. So I mean, oh man, we 40 minutes in already. Time be flying, man. Time be flying. So I think we done touched on a lot of the questions that I had as far as just your journey. So I know that we talked earlier in pre-production about the TED Talk that you have coming out. Is that related to something mental health wise, or is that athletics? What's the nature?
Uh, so the topic was destigmatizing mental health for Black male, and it was a great experience. And I wrote in my journal. I journal every day. I try to at least. And I actually wrote I was going to do a TED talk, and so happened I got asked, and it was just like, wow, I can't believe it's really here. So when I got asked and I learned about the topic, I'm like, yeah, that's easy to talk about. I mean, I deal with it every day. Like it's not. I was diagnosed with 3 mental illnesses, so it was like, okay, I could tell my story in a way where people can grasp it. So it was great, like just to have the opportunity and knowing somebody as I watched yours and seeing other when I typed in Black male mental health, it wasn't a lot on YouTube that I could find that looked like me, but around my age where I can say like, wow, that's what it looks like to do a TED talk. So I'm like, I'm the first one from who I like or my neighborhood or just in general, somebody I know person that did a TED talk. Absolutely, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And say when I didn't have any idea what a TED Talk was. I worked at Westchester University. Um, Awful experience. If I keep it real, I worked there maybe about 2-3 months, and she wanted us to watch a TED Talk of a guy Simon Sinek,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like, why am I watching this, right? But then I watched it, and I'm like, yo, I just focused on him, like he's all that. I didn't even get into the idea of just TED Talks in general, but
Right.
what he's talking about, and I encourage everybody to watch it, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to sell something, because it was the idea of what makes Apple so banging,
Mm-hmm.
right? When it was a whole bunch of other people selling MP3s and stuff
Right.
outside of Apple, right?
Right.
And it's this idea that they believe in what they say,
Right.
right? And it comes across in every way. I encourage everybody to watch it. And so, because that's helped me and just how I'm approaching this whole entrepreneur game, because it's a lot of people out here doing what we do, right? And you can get discouraged, but it's just like, how they gonna put that flavor on it like you do? They don't have the same experiences.
Right.
We both might have did a TED talk on mental health, but your experience is different than mine, and
Right.
vice versa. And we don't have to be competitive, right? We could
Right.
just do us to the fullest degree. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and then a couple years later, it was just like I saw that opportunity by a girl, Annie White, actually. She's like a love doctor, coach, something, a relationship coach,
Right.
helping women find partners. And I saw hers and I was just like, oh, I could do that. You know
Right.
what I mean? And then it just happened.
Right.
And it was a good experience, right? Because it's again, it's another step in the process of our ability to be vulnerable. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I get up there, this ain't about y'all, right? Like I
Right.
hope y'all get it.
Right.
It's about me, you know what I
Right.
mean? And I'm sure you probably feel the same way. Like when you walked off, it was therapeutic for you to be able to get that off.
It was I was nervous because I was just like, I don't like public speaking. I'm trying to get more comfortable, and that's just something that I have internal. That's like one of my fears. So, but just doing it, just involved, and then I had my coaches came and support the guys on my staff. So it was just like, man, I know they watching me, and I'm going to say some stuff that this is my experience, and y'all, like you said, this is about me at the time. So it's just like now me being in that space of doing a TED talk. Now, when I talk to my students that I probably mentor, they're like, "You can do this too. Like your story is your story. We need your story. We need you to come speak. We need you because we want to normalize this. I want to see when I type in mental health or when I type in anything on a TED
Yeah,
talk that I can find black men on there. I want to see that. I don't want to just. I want to see different experience. I want to hear different point of views. And like you said, it's not competitive. We trying to expand what's already going on. We ain't trying to recreate the wheel. We just trying to expand the knowledge for other people to say, "Oh, this is all right to do."
yeah. So I know you talked about your mental wellness issues. So is that something you're currently dealing with, or are you still in therapy? You take medication at all?
No medication. I have I haven't had a therapist in a long time. I think I'm gonna get one again, but I deal with it. PTSD, anxiety, and depression is what I was diagnosed with, or whatever. And like I said, I had a post today. Like the last 2 weeks been rough on me. Just not having a routine and trying to stay motivated in these times. And I do my exercise. I listen to my audio book. I'm an audio learner, visual. So it's just like I didn't seen everything that I wanted to see. Basically, I almost went through the lineage. I'm just trying to find a lineage of my family and where they came from. And I actually been doing some research now on where my last name came from. And I found an actual slave owner who owned my great 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 grandparents and stuff like that. So I didn't trace it all the way back by just Googling. So that's been something that I've been focusing on as of late to just keep me focused and not try to get in a depressive state or anything like that.
Yeah, word. So I saw on Instagram, was it collab management? Is that you or is
Yeah,
that somebody else?
that's me. It's kind of like a transition because at first it was kind of like I was going to manage. I wanted to help guys manage their careers and just give them information, just basically a resource of what the expectation of when you go into these spaces of college or you're trying to get in the MBA. You got to be associated with the right people. You got to learn financial literacy. So I kind of transitioned into the mental health space, since that's where I'm geared to. So just trying to get that up and moving.
All right, and how can they get in contact with that?
Collab COLLABMGT. That's on Instagram. You can find me on Collab MGMT on there. And then inbox me. I'm always posting things on there and just keeping people in the loop of what I'm doing.
Okay, and you have another Instagram page too. You want to get that out, or is that private?
Yeah, no, that's an open page. Mizzou, Mizzou2U. That's my personal page, and whatever's easier for people to hit me up on, I'm always available.
Word. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your COVID Wednesday. You know what I mean, to come on and have this conversation with me. Again, it's encouraging for me because you was on here at 7:45 with me, and you saw how I was going through it.
Right.
The people don't, and that's the thing, man. That's the funny part. Like people don't get to see what you're going through before you get to that arena, before you get to the daily digital show that I got going right now. And nobody sees that. All they see is the product because nobody cares, right? Nobody cares about that. All they care about is the result, right? And that we've become so result driven as a society that it makes it difficult for a lot of us to truly emote and express who we are, because we feel that we can't. We
Mm-hmm.
feel that we always have to continue to press on and press on and press on. And so it's good to hear, people like you, like my brothers who I know, other sisters that I know, black brothers, brown sisters, white sisters, and brothers, just saying, yo, we got to take time for ourselves. We got to relax. And we just got to make sure we taking care of our mental wellness, man. So again, I appreciate you for tuning in, brother.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad we got to talk about this, and especially some brothers that's in the space and trying to further the I guess the journey.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. It might have the same setup that I used to have, right? If I can get it working. Like Brother Umar Johnson said, we done gave you some good information, some good tidbits. So we can't keep giving you this for free. You know what I mean? So make sure shout out to Umar. I don't know why I say it every day, but it's still funny to me. But make sure you show some love. It's at the bottom. Subscribe on YouTube at Quantify LLC or donate to the Cash App. Shout out to Alexis Bradford who shot me $20, man. But that meant a lot. That helped me get some Chinese food today. I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm playing. No. That just helps me again continue this journey to provide information, man. Because again, people think that it might look easy, but it's hard. I think AI said that.
All right.
But again, I appreciate you. Tomorrow, tune in at 8 o'clock. We're going to be having a conversation on some current events that's taking place all week. I've had guests all week. I'm definitely going to get into Lil Boosie.
Ah, I got to tune in.
Hiring an older adult woman to molest his son, and just how problematic that is in society, and just this toxic culture that we live in, especially when it comes to men and rape culture and hip hop. And there's some other things we're going to talk about. So again, make sure you tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. Quantify LLC on Facebook and on YouTube. Until tomorrow, peace.
Peace out. Appreciate it.